Welcome back to Josh Tells a Story. What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are having a glorious day. I wanted to open up the field a little bit and help you kind of expand outside of your mind of reality and tell you about a crazy challenge that I did a number of years ago to live on $0, zero food budget for an entire year. Now, this experience changed my life forever and was a huge basis on a lot of the stuff we cook for Brothers Green. So just a quick note, if you want to check out my podcast, click below. You Enjoy Life. I'm sharing a lot of stories of inspiration. But this one specifically changed my entire life because a lot of the things that you see, like, these quick meals and pizza, like flatbread pizzas, came from me having to survive in New York City. So about 2008, I just moved to New York City. I was there for a year, and my band and I moved together to survive. And it was all about, like, how can we survive this crazy, New York lifestyle and trying to make it in a band. And we weren't making any money, so I had to take a job. It was a crazy job, which I'll share in another story. But you can try to guess what my job was below. And I got laid off when the recession hit. And a lot of people were losing their jobs, and people were freaking out, not knowing what to do. So I basically was, like, just living on the edge. And I started cooking for myself all the time. And I started living myself to budgets, like $30, $50 a week, whatever it was. I was just like, I'm going to eat in, I'm going to cook for myself, and I'm going to just be creative. And it helped me get creative. It created the flatbread pizza recipe that has been seen by so many people. And it just really changed my life in a big way because I started to realize, like, I didn't need to go out, to have these great experiences. I could eat in. So around that time, I started this blog, and what was happening, so I went to this party one day and I saw this book called The Art of Eating In, and it's by this woman named Cathy Erway, and I was like, that sounds really interesting. That's basically what I do. And basically she had spent 2 years of her life just denouncing restaurants in New York City and saying, I'm just going to cook for myself, I'm just going to eat in and see what else opens up. So I'm looking at this book and I'm like, this is so cool. This is kind of what I'm doing right now. And someone's like, actually, the woman is at this party. I was like, what? She's at the party? So I got to meet her and chat for a little bit. She told me some of her story. She gave me the book and I took it and I read it and I decided to start a blog called Why I Eat In. And part of the blog was just kind of, I didn't want it to be exactly like hers, but I knew that I wanted to share this adventure of me, like, really learning how to cook for myself, how to take advantage of, like, not going to the restaurants but still have a great time. So around that time I was throwing a birthday party, and at this point I had been just really enjoying having friends over, inviting people over to cook for them, and just that experience. Because Brothers Green is not about the food. If you make food the star, you're missing the whole point. The food is the vehicle to create something amazing for yourself, to nourish yourself, to give yourself pleasure, to have fun, to connect with friends, connect with people, have some cool connection on a date, whatever it is. The food is the vehicle. So if you're just seeing it as the star, you're missing the whole point as far as I'm concerned. So I was doing these parties and having a great time. And getting ready to do this birthday party where I invited like 50 people over. I wanted to cook for them. And right before the party, I dropped my phone in the frickin' sink, and it was completely filled with water. And I was like, oh my god, my phone. It was an iPhone. I had no money, and I was like, oh god, no. So phone I thought was destroyed. And I was really upset, but I allowed myself to scream. My room, I was like, ah! And okay, get back to it, Josh. Get back into it. So I went back in, I had a party, had a great time. And that night I had a revelation. I said, you know what? Cathy spent 2 years only eating in. I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to spend 1 year without spending a single dollar on food, starting tomorrow. So I had my leftovers from the party. I had whatever's in my pantry. I think I had my big bag of flour, and I just went for it. I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know how it would go, but I literally just went for it, and bada bing, bada boom, my whole life changed. So as I'm reading this book and I'm going on this challenge, I start learning about all these different things. And this is the cool part. When you limit yourself in life, when you take a risk and you limit yourself, you start thinking outside of the box and you start getting creative. If you look at your life in this lens of like, well, this is how it is, this is how it's got to be, you're going to be missing a lot that's out there. So sometimes, even though people don't like being in boxes, putting yourself in this little box actually allows you to be super creative within it. So yes, I was limited. I couldn't spend any money on food, but I knew it would be the only way for me to survive without getting a job. And that was a huge part of it. I wanted to cook for people, and I was just at that time starting to cook for some friends. They were giving me a couple extra bucks to cook them lunch for the week, or I would do a dinner party for friends, and maybe I'd make an extra $50, or maybe I would have some leftovers or something. So what it was doing, it was inspiring me to be creative, but it was also helping me, push me to grow this sort of catering business that I was working on. It was like a private chef, personal chef, underground, food hustler kind of thing, whatever you want to call it. So I started reading her book more, and I started learning about a lot that was going on in the world. And the world of New York and this food scene. There were underground supper clubs and things that I was like, didn't really know about, but I was kind of already doing. I'm like, oh, I'd already do that. Then I found out about foraging. So here I am, like, okay, I've got my leftovers, and I'm just slowly struggling to use them. But I'm actually finding in Prospect Park, I can go around and get a ton of free food. So I went on this expedition with this guy, Wild Man, and he showed me all the food, and a group of people, all the food that you could eat in New York City. And it was great. It was like, there's berries in the parks, there's all these different leafy greens, and you got to be careful and go with a professional, but I grabbed so much stuff, lamb's quarter, purslane, so all of a sudden my greens are now covered, at least for the springtime, right? So I was doing that. Then I also started learning about dumpster diving and freeganism, where people go around to local bakeries, and different places, supermarkets, where they throw out their food and they open up the trash bags. Everything's completely like pristine and untouched. Bakeries, so this isn't a crazy thing, but if you go to somewhere like France, typically the bakeries, by the end of the day, you get there and there's maybe a couple things because they just run out. In New York City and places in America, people have this perception that things need to be filled and stacked all the time. So when you walk into a bakery, it's like, it's always stacked, but at the end of the day, they still have all that stuff. So a lot of stuff goes to waste. They end up having to throw out a ton of things. And there hasn't really been a great system in place until more recently to actually deal with that food waste. So they throw it out and you can go in front, and it's called dumpster diving. You open a bag and you get like a thing of 12 bagels that are maybe a day at most old, and they're still really good. So I was doing that and kind of trying to find free food. I would invite friends over, and they would bring food, and I'd cook for them, and then I'd get to have a meal as well. And it was really helping me build community. But what it really pushed me to do was be super creative with what I ever had around. So I started doing these catering jobs, and I'm not saying this is what you're going to do. All I'm trying to do is inspire you. This is my situation. This is the situation that I was in. I figured out a way to make it work. Whatever situation you're in, it might be different, but figure out, let's say you don't have a lot of money to cook. Well, maybe that means every Wednesday night, your friends are getting together, everyone's bringing all the food that's going bad, and you cook a big meal, and you guys all have leftovers for the week. There's so many different potential options. Or maybe you're looking into free food options. In Denver right now, there's a food bank that helps the homeless, but they have excess food, and they give it out to anyone that needs it. That literally helps the homeless. I'm actually working on an event right now with them to just spread more awareness, because they go to all the markets and they take all the food that's going bad and they distribute it to the homeless, and then whatever left, other people get to get. And there's we're talking like good markets like Sprouts and King Soopers that have like organic food and all kinds of stuff available for the taking. Otherwise, it would go to waste. So there's enough food to feed the world 2 times over, but yet, most of it goes to waste. And so it's very unfortunate. However, I want to inspire you guys so we can all make the change together. So it was really pushing me to start getting more jobs, because I knew that the only way I'd have any money to actually buy food would be if I did a job. And the challenge for me was, if I had, let's say someone's like, hey, I've got a dinner party for 15 people, I have a budget of $300. Well, I couldn't spend money on food, but I could buy food and stuff for the party. So say the menu is Asian food, whatever I had left over, then I could use that. So like if I had, a bottle of soy sauce, I used 3/4 of it, I have a little soy sauce left, great, now I can have soy sauce for the next couple weeks. But I even remember my brother telling me, he moved in right after that, and we didn't have any salt for like a while, and he's like, where's the salt, man? I was like, I can't buy salt, I don't have a job, I can't buy salt yet. And he's like, well, you can't, I'm gonna go buy salt. I was like, you can do whatever you want, but I'm still limiting myself, my challenge is almost over. So I started catering more and more for people, but what I also started seeing was that this is like the coolest part for me, is that yes, I'd start to have some leftovers from this job, however, I couldn't buy the things that I wanted. And this is where I started really thinking about cravings, because even like for Cathy in her book, she can't go out to a restaurant, sure, but if she's craving, some sort of souffle or lemongrass chicken, she can still go to the market and make it. And it's a little more challenging than going, to the restaurant, but she can still make it. For me, if I had a craving, my only option was to look and see what was in my fridge. I literally could not go to the market. I had to look and see what was in my fridge and get creative with that. And then if I got some sort of job, then I could go out and buy ingredients for the job and use leftovers, of course. However, it was so inspiring to me because it started making my mind think in a way that I had never thought before. Because previously, I didn't have a lot of money, but if I wanted something, you go out and buy it. Oh, I want a gyro, I'm going to go next door and grab one. And I was living in Brooklyn, so there's food everywhere, and amazing food everywhere. So it was really a testament to my ability to actually hold off on this. But what I started doing was things like, one day, someone came over and they had this frozen yogurt. And it had M&Ms on it, peanut M&Ms, and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Peanut M&Ms on frozen yogurt, that sounds amazing. Problem was, couldn't have it. Couldn't make it, couldn't go buy it. So I started looking at my, well, I can't make that exactly, but what do I have? So I found that I had some milk powder. So I started taking the milk powder and I'm kind of just like adding some water to it, I had some sugar left over, starting to beat that up and freeze it and kind of like mix it around and try to make something kind of like ice cream. And then I saw that I had peanuts and I had some chocolate. So I melt the chocolate, dip the peanuts in it and kind of let them dry. And all of a sudden I have this dish, and yes, it's not the frozen yogurt that I had initially craved, but I created something new, something unique to myself. And that was one of the most inspiring things I've ever done in my life, and that is why I love challenges. When I did the How to Live on $3 a Day challenge, I had no idea how many millions of people would see. I think it's got like over 3 million views now. I had no idea how many people would see that video and how many people reach out directly. Like when I get stopped and spotted on the street, most people refer to that video. They're like, man, that video changed my life. Like you really showed me something special. And even just knowing that I got to do that is a very exciting thing. And a lot of that influence came from this challenge. So I want you guys to know out there, if you're someone that feels like you're stuck and you're in a rough situation, just think outside the box. I hope this video gave you some inspiration, because yes, we all need food to survive. And I'm not saying that I didn't have food for a year, but I figured out other creative ways to get the things that I needed without money. So if you're looking at it and you're like, money, I need money. Most people think very linearly. It's like, okay, I need food to survive. I need money to buy food. I don't have money, so I am screwed. And it's like, actually, you're not screwed. There are other options. There are other things that you can do. And maybe that means reaching out to a friend, whatever it means. But I want you to take the risk and see what you can do in your life. Hope this video inspired you guys. Like it, share it, subscribe to the Brothers Green. I spent an entire year without buying any food. So I promise you, whatever situation you're in, you can figure something out that works for you. Get creative, have fun, yeah, and still you can cook whatever you need to. Bye guys.